welcome back to the Click Chick podcast. Today I have Kristen with me. If you don't know who she is, if you're watching this and you don't recognize her, we're going to explain who she is in the next episode. So we're recording a two-parter today for you guys. We're going to do a little bit of gossip for you because you guys love the gossip episodes. And then we're going to get a little bit more serious and talk about documentary style photography in the next episode and what that means, because that's a really broad spectrum and such a buzzword right now. So that'll be helpful to just kind of go into what that means for us and our businesses, and just when you're hiring a photographer, what to ask so that you know exactly what you're getting. The theme for today's episode is photographer horror stories, which you said you didn't really have any.
I don't. I suppose I'm very fortunate in that, but there have been a few things that actually came to mind. So, and I know the person involved would like not mind me sharing this. So, of course, I won't mention their name or the company that the other person. It's completely anonymous. Or I won't mention the other person that's involved. But so I was shadowing a photographer when I was first kind of coming into the Charlotte market, or just like wedding photography in general. I had reached out to a bunch of people and was like, hey, let me just like carry your bags. Like, you know, just kind of trying to get in there and see what the what was. And so she was one of the very few people that had actually responded and kind of let me come and help her almost be like a third shooter situation. So it was a pretty smooth day. I really enjoyed working with her. Her second was amazing. It was a beautiful venue, very high-end wedding, and just amazing. Thank you, by the way. You know who you are, for supporting me from the very beginning. So yeah, she, you know, the whole day was beautiful. The couple was so sweet. But the videographer.
No, it's always the videographer.
It's always the videographer. So, and I am a huge advocate for vendor community. I love working with people, not against them, whether it's other photographers, videographers, whoever you are, whatever you do. I'm a huge advocate for just respecting people.
Yeah, it's a fun club. Like we all gas each other up, and then you show up on the wedding day and you're like, hey, it's my favorite DJ. And everyone's high-fiving and telling each other how amazing we are. Like, it's sweet.
Exactly. So the first thing I noticed, and to start this horror story off right, is we were doing some bridal shots and she wasn't even in her dress yet. And so we got our shots and he's like, well, this is just not working for me. And I was like, what? She's getting married today. How can you speak to somebody like that? Number one,
it's just not working for me.
Yeah. So, and number one, she was gorgeous. Like there is not a bad angle of this person. And regardless, like everybody's beautiful on their wedding day. Yeah. Doesn't matter who you are, what you look like. It is your wedding day. You're a goddess. So I heard him say this and I was like, oh my word. So
bold.
Red flag number one. So fast forward, there were like just a few things, just, you know, not working well with the people around him. All red flags until the reception when I was doing whatever I was doing. And sorry,
you're good.
The bubbles got me.
We are drinking a little bit of wine. I'm going to be honest. This is our first, my first, this is your first with me, but out of all of my podcasts, I've been sober. We're currently sober, I would say.
Currently sober, but we're just trying to have fun.
We'll see by episode 2 where we'll be at. It'll be giggly, but
stay tuned for part 2.
Anyway, keep going.
So, reception's banging. And I walk out and I think I was like trying to touch base with the lead on something. And so as I was approaching her, I see her and the videographer, who is a very tall man, by the way. And he was almost like leaning over her, like in a very threatening way. And I see like their interaction is not a positive one. And I'm like, what is happening right now? So as I get closer, I hear him just disrespecting her in ways that I like can't even explain, but then he was essentially saying, you're crazy, like you are ex-girlfriend crazy, like just very, very unprofessional. And if somebody is being disrespectful to you at a wedding, or if you feel like somebody is acting a certain way, you shouldn't be popping off on them. That's a reflection of your unprofessionalism. If you want to address it in a certain way, totally fine. But to tell somebody they're crazy, like an ex-girlfriend, like, let's grow up. That's not appropriate.
That's just mean.
It's mean. Yeah, it's mean. It's inappropriate. It makes everybody uncomfy. And I just feel like there's no way to come back from that. There's no benefits from that. So as I am listening to this, she kind of like is stunned by like the terrible things that he's saying. And I am very much a person that like, I want to respect other people's, I want to respect other people's space. And it didn't seem like she was unsafe at the time. So, and not that anything like happened, but if she seemed unsafe, like I was definitely going to do something, but it didn't seem like it was going to progress to that level. But I just kind of like turned around and walked away because I was like, I've witnessed what I need to witness. I'm going to let them have their private moment.
You're like, I don't want him coming after me.
And well, like not only that, but like I thought he was really professional with me for the most point, but I don't know. Like sometimes personalities don't clash. Like they clash. They don't go together very well. Which is not an excuse, but I think that maybe he got a different vibe from me, perhaps. But regardless, like however you perceive somebody's like attitude towards you, it doesn't give you an excuse to be rude or unprofessional or call them a crazy ex-girlfriend. But yeah, so videographers. That's my horror story. Is that one?
That was a good one. I can't imagine arguing in front of guests or the couple. Like, I do have a good videographer story similar, but I think I'm going to save it for when I do a videographer episode. But my horror story, it had nothing to do with like the production side of a wedding. I feel so bad. The father of the groom is giving a toast, and I'm like, my secondhand embarrassment right now is like going off. So the father of the groom is giving a toast, and he doesn't have it written down, so he's just going off the top of his head.
Oh, no.
And he starts like going back on the groom's story of his life. You know how they're like, oh, when he was a little kid, blah 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 blah, and then he's talking about high school. And this girl that the groom dated. And he goes, he's like, and we really loved her and she was great. I mean, we love you too, to the bride.
Yikes.
I have a photo of her reaction to it.
Oh my word. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'll show you.
I feel like you should have it framed here in your office.
It's literally burned into my brain. She's like, it's like that awkward, shocked laughter. And like, it's just uncomfortable. No, like everybody in the room is just like, oh, because it's like, oh, we like you too.
Yikes. That's a mega yikes.
Yeah.
Is what that is for sure.
It's just, I can't imagine.
Yeah. Dads, write your speeches down.
And keep it to like a 5-minute speech, because
Tops.
I'm sure you and I have both experienced toasts that just ramble and ramble.
Yes.
And like, nobody cares after 3 to 5 minutes. We all zone out.
Yeah. And like, I understand people want to show their support for the couple and everything, but at the end of the day, like the couple wants to have a good time with everybody. They don't want to just like listen to you talk. Absolutely.
And most people don't care about the person toasting, like respectfully. It's like the maid of honor, the groom, like nobody knows who they are hardly at all. And so it's just like, okay, Stephanie, wrap it up. Now I do love toast and I cry during most of them. So this is not like me dissing toast. I love them. I'm actually my sister's maid of honor. And before she even asked me to be her maid of honor, I'd already written my speech. I was like, I've been writing this since I met your soon to be husband.
That is so sweet. I also think there's something to say about number of toasts.
You know what? That's actually more the point than,
Because when I tell you, I literally have seen lines of people and I'm pretty sure they only had like 20 minutes of dancing. Only had 20 minutes of dancing because there were so many toasts.
Yeah,
and
no more than 4.
Yeah. Short and sweet. Closest people.
Yeah, cry a little bit, make it sentimental, make it funny, get out of there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe a highlight moment in your relationship.
Yeah.
I think that's sufficient.
Yeah. Just a little sprinkle of love and then get out.
That's right. Just a sprinkle of love and That's it. That's all you need.
All right, so we're going to jump into, I found all of these stories on Reddit. If you listen to the podcast, you know how much I love Reddit. So the stories are good. There's some good ones in there, but it's all photographer horror stories that I pulled off the Reddit thread, like r/photographer, I think it was.
Sweet. Okay. I have to be fully transparent. I'm not like a Reddit girly by any means, but I saw your previous episodes and I was like, okay, I could vibe this. So
yeah.
I'm
So
really
some
excited.
of them are AITI, which is like where you,
Yes,
you
yes,
decide
those were
if they're the
interesting.
asshole or not.
Those were interesting.
Yeah, which now I need to count this as explicit because I said the A word, my bad. But
Oh.
I'm like, only some of them will be explicit if I use the AITA. But yeah, these, we're just giving our judgment. We don't have to give them like an official label on if they're an asshole or not. So
Okay.
it's just listening and judging, which is, I've said it before, as wedding vendors, we love a little bit of drama. So we're opinionated. We're not mean, but it's just we need to see things. You know what I mean? And they're photographer related stories, so it'll be good.
We love a photographer related story.
All right, so first story is titled "We Lost the Bride and Groom One Time." I was part of a firm that did both photo and video. Originally, I was with the video guy helping him out. Coming out from the ceremony, we had to rush to the reception spot, so we mixed up all of our gear with each other with photo and video. We show up at the spot for the reception, film and shoot a little bit, but then the bride and groom wanted to head into the city to get some fancy evening sunset shots and whatnot. They still had us for 3 hours, so whatever they say, right? So we split up again. I'm driving with the photographer. We get caught in traffic, so we tell the newlyweds that we'll meet them at the same spot they shot for their engagement pictures. Our photo guy did them too. Only problem, the photo guy forgot the address and lost the bride's contact information somehow. No problem, we'll call the video guys. They have all of the information. They didn't, because the phone that they had the client information on was dropped in water earlier that night, and the other video guy's phone was dead and he didn't have a charger. Long story short, we couldn't find the bride and groom and had no way of contacting them or finding where they were. They just went home.
You know, I feel like a lot of people drop the ball in multiple points throughout this story.
How do you not have the contact information? That's
the biggest red flag right there,
like,
to be completely honest.
Every wedding morning, I take a screenshot of the coordinator's number, the bride's number, the groom's number. I get a point of contact number from the bride that's somebody other than the coordinator and her. Usually it's like the maid of honor or her mom or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not have a contact number?
I can't see how that would ever happen to me.
No.
Why aren't we putting things in place to avoid this from happening? This is crazy.
This is why we're good at our jobs.
Question
Basic?
Mark?
Yeah, I feel like this is common sense. But also the just going home part, why not go back to the venue?
That was my question exactly. Like, why? Like, okay, I'm tired now. I'm just going to go home. Like, you're going to Tom Hanks it and just like, I'm going to go home. Or
like, for the videographer to just be like, okay, peace out. I'm going to bed. Like, I'm going to go play Call of Duty.
Like you didn't just fail miserably at your job.
I'm just confused. And then what did the bride and groom do? They show up to the photo spot and just wait there they said they had 3 hours.
3 hours. So just for my own clarification, 3 hours
of coverage left from when they left the venue. So they left the venue. They got stuck in traffic. I can't imagine it was 3 hours.
Well, so like my question is, who is booking that much coverage and not having that long of a reception? I think I might be confused.
They had to be coming back, right? Like go into the city and then come back.
Was it like a brunch? Like a brunch?
Maybe.
Wedding?
I love a brunch wedding.
I haven't done one.
Oh my gosh, they're so fun.
But let me tell you about how much I love brunch food, though.
That's what I'm saying. They're like, you want some eggs? I'm like, yeah. Chicken and waffles, thank you.
Although I think I would enjoy a brunch wedding just for like the simple fact that like I would be able to put my daughter to bed as opposed to like wedding nights. I don't get that luxury. So
yeah, that's the only downside for me for wedding photography is like and I don't have kids. So it's just me and my dog, but like not having weekends and all of your friends are doing something fun, or like for you, like putting down your daughter, you're like, oh, I'm committed.
Yeah.
But it's fine. We love it. We do love it.
We love it so much.
But yeah, I don't understand how this went so horribly wrong. And also if this were me, right? Like, let's say there's no phones. I don't remember the address to the location where we did the engagement photos. Like, I'm going to some random stranger on the street. They're in the downtown. And I'm going to be like, hey, what's up? I'm a photographer. This is what I need. I can't find this. Can you pull this up on your smartphone and just tell me direct? Like,
right.
Use some common sense.
Like, why aren't we using Facebook Messenger to message somebody or Instagram or like, why aren't we utilizing all of our resources? Like, they just lost. Like, are they going to ask for some money back because you didn't?
I mean, that's 3 hours.
Yeah, that's, it's a pretty good chunk of time left in a coverage. You know what I mean? So.
And also, like, don't you put the addresses in your calendar when you book the engagement session? So, like, I could just go back on my phone and
something. Or even like, I know a lot of us take BTS, go to the BTS, like if you swipe up on iPhones, it shows that geotagging.
You're smart.
Girl,
we would have crushed this situation.
We would have crushed this situation.
We would have been so good.
And you know what? That's what makes us different from them.
This is why we're professionals.
Shape up.
Read our reviews on Google. They're very good.
That's right. 5 stars.
5 star. Okay, story number 2. I've been a wedding photographer for just over 3 years now. I've been primary shooting and second shooting. So between those, I've probably done around 80 weddings. And I work a day job, so I've been busy. My engagement session horror story. I once dropped an engagement ring inside of a bench and quite almost literally had an emotional breakdown. The wooded bench had slats, so I wanted to balance the engagement ring on the slats. I had it perfectly set up, but the Earth's tectonic plates must have shifted or a breeze might have blown, and the ring fell. Thinking, oh, I can just slide it out, I hadn't realized that there were metal plates on each side blocking my ability to get the ring out.
We're calling the fire department. We will call the fire department.
Right.
1000%.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And let's be honest, it's city property. It's insured. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. I paced for 2 solid minutes, dropping the F-bomb about 50 times, literally. I started thinking I need to find a janitor for the school that I'm shooting at. No luck. I went to my bag to look for the Leatherman I usually keep in there to use the pliers. No luck. It was at some workbench in my home garage. Then I grabbed 2 sticks and I MacGyvered that ring out of there by pinching it between 2 sticks. When I got to the bottom of the hill with the ring, the couple pulled up in their car to meet me after changing their outfits. They had no idea anything had ever happened. Have you ever lost a ring?
I've never lost a ring. I'm very paranoid.
Me too. Have you ever done like detail photos on the beach, like in the sand?
No.
I was so scared. I did that once or twice. Like the bride wanted that vibe. And I had the ring in the sand. And I'm just like, this could just sink. And then you know how things are at the beach.
Yes.
Like they just go missing.
A seagull could come and take it away.
They like shiny things. Wait, that's crows, ravens?
I'm not sure. Some bird.
They're birds.
They like birds like shiny things. And my anxiety is way too heightened about having possession of other people's things that like I can't do that.
Especially when they're expensive.
The one so far wedding that I have done near a beach, we did detail photos inside. I was like, that's not happening. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that road. And this story is a perfect testament as to why.
Putting it in the slats though, I don't even feel like that'd be a good photo.
You know what? As you were telling the story, I'm trying to envision it and like the composition and the exposure. And I'm trying to like envision it in my mind. And I'm like, she's not cute. Sorry. I don't think that was a good idea.
When you're doing an engagement session, do you have them like take the ring off and you do it?
Never.
Me neither. I did like 8 years ago when I was starting.
Now I want something that's going to give more like context to the photo and like we're going to keep that girly on your hand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have you touch the face, do something else, not taking it off. I feel like there's really no need.
You know, my
So
favorite ring pose, you've probably seen it on my Instagram. I do it with everybody, but like the creation of man painting where they're reaching out and like
yes,
just barely touching.
I
It's
love it.
so cute. I like doing it during their engagements and then doing it again on the wedding day and being like, oh, it's updated.
Yes, I love it. And it's just it looks almost like very delicate and very like intentional and like soulful, I feel
Yeah,
like. So
it just feels like it's a moment. And obviously it's
yeah.
very set up.
But it's there's something to say about how you feel when you look at the photo as opposed to what's going on in that moment. In the moment, of course,
Exactly.
it's very calculated, but when they look at that photo, it speaks more than the moment that it took to take it, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And I love that you said that because this is like perfect. This is going into our second episode together, which you guys will hear next week.
Stay
So this was
tuned.
like the teaser trailer. So if that was
Yeah.
interesting to you, then you're going to love the next episode. All right. Next story. I was at a wedding second shooting and a guest walked right up to me and said, I'm going to grab your ass right now unless you tell me not to.
Okay, I'm really glad you brought this up because I had a situation, but
Oh my God.
I had a situation, but I'm excited to hear this story.
I flashed my wedding ring and said, I'm married. Don't think my wife would like that very much, and laughed it off. She looks up at me and says, I'm married too, and flashes me her wedding ring. I turned and beelined it out of there. The lead photographer walked up to her and told her to stay away from me for the rest of the night or she'd kick her ass. Normally, this stuff is said in jest, but this girl was a little scary and serious. It kind of weirded me out.
Ew, we're telling the couple or somebody and we're getting this person kicked out. Like if I genuinely felt like
Yeah.
they're harassing me or I'm leaving.
Right.
I don't know.
Is that in your contract?
It is in my contract.
Good. Mine too.
But I will say there's something to say about like a jest. I think that they, identified that. But if this was exceeding that and it's like more like aggressive, like if we're like past that joke point, I'm like, all right, something's gotta happen. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Especially like when it comes to touching somebody. I hate being touched
Yeah.
without, like if a friend wants to hug me or whatever, like come on
Right.
and hug
But by
me.
a stranger.
But, yeah. Especially
somebody-
someone drunk at a wedding.
Yes.
It's the worst crowd.
Yeah.
Like if you're just listening and somehow you don't know what I look like, even though the podcast clip art has me on it, I'm tattooed. So like my arm is like heavily tattooed. And that's most groomsmen when they're drunk at the end of the night, they come up to me and they touch my tattoos and they're like, what is this? And I'm just like, don't touch. Like that's the only time that I will be sassy on a wedding day is dealing with drunk groomsmen and drunk uncles. Yeah. I will just look at them and be like, do not touch me.
And it's funny because as soon as you started to say that, I knew exactly where you were going with it because I've had that myself. Like people touching my arm, like you can ask me.
Yeah.
And without touching me, we can avoid that part.
Like,
we don't have to
identify and say, it's always the vine. They trace the vine. They're like, what is this? I'm like, just say, why did you get a vine tattooed on you? And then we can talk. But even then, like, nobody ever actually cares to talk about my tattoos unless they're girls. Like, guys, that's just like their opening line every time. I roll my eyes. I'm like, that's the most original.
I also feel like sometimes people will grab my wrist to move my arm. That's a no-go.
I've had people do that to grab me because they're like, I want you to take this photo over here. Like, grab me and be like, like grab my wrist and be like, come here. And that makes me so mad.
That's very aggressive.
Yeah,
I feel
it'll be like the aunt.
I feel like that's not appropriate. Number one.
It scares me.
Yeah, that's so, I don't know if you know this about me. I used to be a police officer.
Okay.
So in the first step of like taking physical control of somebody, typically, depending on the situation, is you try to grab their wrist for some sort of control move. So I do not like being touched by the wrist for that reason.
My fight or flight kicks in.
Exactly, for good reason.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Swing on grandma.
Yeah, about to get these hands.
Throw some elbows at granny. But yeah, that's in my contract too, where it's like if somebody is harassing me, not even just like sexual harassment, but just making me uncomfortable in any way, it's in my contract that either they leave or I leave.
Right.
And like it's never had to come to that point.
Right, me either.
But yeah, at least we have it in there just in case.
Yeah. I have heard other horror stories from like a planner that I recently had this conversation, but basically bride was cool as a cucumber, the whole like year planning leading up to the wedding. And then like wedding day came and her whole behavior was like 180, cussed her, like did all this crazy stuff. And she was like, what's happening? Like, you are not the person that I have been interacting with
That's
for.
such a bummer.
It is. So she was basically like, you need to fix yourself or I'm leaving and good luck. But so luckily I think it resolved, but it baffles me the response that people have to stress. So stress on a wedding day, stress on evolving situations, it manifests in ways that I would never expect.
Yeah.
So and again, like a law enforcement side, when people have very heightened stress, do you see them like respond in a certain way? So like seeing that stress from people that are like not used to like that level of stress, like on a wedding day or something like that, and they become like their personality changes or just like these different things, it's very interesting to see. So I don't really know where I kind of started going down a rabbit hole.
We love rabbit holes.
I don't really know where I was going with that, but basically stress manifests in like weird ways. And so it's like interesting to see how like some people respond differently to stress.
And like we're used to stress all the time. Like weddings are insane and I thrive in that environment.
Right.
Like that's great for me.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting with you being a cop.
Yeah. It was really interesting. And I think Harry actually touched on it, which I thought was really,
we did talk about
really
that.
interesting is, being in a stressful situation. And I worked in medicine prior to working in law enforcement. So like that was a whole other realm of stress. And then like law enforcement, that stress, so when he mentions in your podcast about like, oh, like I'm good, like nobody's hurt, like we're just working through these like things, I was like, dang, that is so spot on. Because it's true, it's just the best day of somebody's life and there might be some hiccups, but we're going to get through it. And so 1000% agree. It's, like we thrive on that stress.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I think most wedding photographers I know too, they can compartmentalize really well. So just in life, like in an emotional situation, I can like be like, okay, that's in this cubby now and I need to deal with this. Yeah. So on a wedding day, if somebody is rude to me, like I can turn around and immediately just forget about it. Like I'm not gonna be pissy or emotional or whatever. It's like, okay, that happened. We're gonna cry about that in the car ride home.
Yeah. Which is so strange that you actually talk about compartmentalization, because I feel like as a first responder, I did it so well. And as a wedding photographer, like I can still kind of do it, but I am more stressed by this job than I ever was as a police officer. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of people have asked me why. And I really couldn't tell you. I think maybe because this is like an immediate reflection of like my skill and my ability and everything like that. But I am way more stressed personally, not like stress, like anxiety, if that makes sense, but more stressed as a person working this job.
Like the expectation that's on you, or what's the stress?
I think so. Even though being a police officer is literally life and death.
No,
and like
that's what
that wasn't as much stress for me as taking photos of somebody. Like when somebody walks down the aisle and I am photographing their significant other's reaction to that, my heart rate is like so elevated and I'm like almost holding my breath. Whereas if I was responding to, they call it like a hot call, where somebody's stabbed, somebody's shot, somebody, is in desperate need of help, like I am cool as a cucumber riding with my lights and sirens,
My gosh. Like, well, that's basically what Harry said too. If you guys haven't listened to the second episode of the podcast, Harry was on and he was talking about something really similar where he's like, yeah, on a Friday I would be on a job and see like people literally die, and then Saturday I'm like all happy go lucky, like nothing ever happened. I'm just like,
yes, which is crazy. I think I missed that part, but I had several years in between and a baby. So I feel like also having a baby has like changed me as a person, as it changes like every cell in your body. Yeah. But I I don't know, like I was very much like, I could see something traumatic like that, witness terrible things, and then go home and be completely fine.
Yeah.
Even though it was terrible to witness, and I was so like hurt from like seeing that happen, witnessing things like that. And of course, like I still had emotion and I'm human, but I would go home and it was like a switch would flip.
Mm-hmm.
So like I could definitely see how that would be like for him, but on a wedding day, I have to be more cognizant of like, okay, that's not working. Let's go do something else. You know,
Yeah.
like I have to like, be more cognizant of like how I'm doing the things, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I feel that.
very interesting though to like talk about that, because I feel like you, having never been a like first responder, like
Mm-hmm.
having that ability though is amazing. Like having the ability to compartmentalize
Oh,
to
it's like my biggest strength. It's
and
a
I love that.
superpower.
I
Yeah,
love
I'm
that.
sure there's something toxic with that, but
It's a strength.
That's something to talk about in therapy, but but I think it works. It serves me very well. So
Yeah.
that's good. This was a fantastic rabbit hole.
I love it. Yeah, fantastic rabbit hole.
Are you ready for the next story?
Yes, I am.
All right, so next story. So I'm doing this wedding for a couple in San Diego. The bride wanted a post-ceremony shoot in Balboa Park before the reception, which was downtown at the Hard Rock Hotel. Everything was going really well so far. The ceremony and the shoot at the park were really smooth, good photos, and we were meshing with everyone really well. Time to go meet them at the hotel. Walking back to my car, and I pull out my keys, and the effing car key is missing. I think back and realize I have a new carabiner and had been fiddling with it all day. My key must have dropped off my keychain somewhere in the park.
Key to the car?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So we scramble around, retracing our steps, looking for the key. This is a really big park, and we went all over the place. We've been looking for about a half hour, and the sun is starting to go down. We're supposed to be at the reception really soon, and we get a call from the bride asking us where we are. Then we go back to the parking lot towards my car, and my partner breaks down crying. She runs up to this random old guy and explains our story and begs him to take us downtown to this wedding ceremony. Reception. I don't know why they said ceremony. Without hesitation, he agrees. We jump in the car with him and he takes us straight there. Holy crap. We got there just as the bride and groom were calling us again because they were about to be introduced into their reception. We were there with maybe a minute to spare, but we were able to completely play it off like nothing happened.
So they lost their key?
They lost their car key. That's my fear. Like, I am genuinely scared of that. Or getting like a flat tire, which that you can recover from, whatever. But
talk about horror stories.
Has that happened to you?
Yes.
On the way to a wedding?
On the way back home from a wedding.
Oh, bummer.
And my husband wouldn't come get me.
He wouldn't?
No.
Fired.
Fired.
Bye.
Bye. So, not to go down another rabbit hole, but my lovely lead, Casey H Photos, Casey Hendrickson, she's
Shout
out. She's a lovely person, and she brought me home an hour and a half.
Oh,
yeah.
Did y'all live near each other?
So we were shooting a wedding. I was seconding for her in
Goldsboro?
Goldsboro. That's the place. And I was like, I had just gotten on the road, and my tire was like, no thank you anymore. So
I need to put new tires on my car. That's gonna happen.
You should absolutely.
They're pretty balding. When you leave, take a look at them. Yeah, you'll be like, girl,
get your oil changed, get AAA, do all the things.
I do have AAA.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
Yeah.
So with this story, I will say, how can one not be cognizant of like all the things that they need to like effectively do their job?
Yeah.
Like for me, I have a million tabs open in my brain about, okay, properly taking care of my lenses. That's like number one. Number two is, do I have all the things? Do I have like my keys? Do I have, whatever. Chapstick is a big one for me.
Ooh.
I don't know, all my chapstick girlies, I don't know where you're at, but I always like, I'll do, you know how guys are like phone, wallet, keys. Yes. I do like, okay, keys, chapstick, and then whatever else is cool.
It's higher than the phone on the priority list.
Literally, like I could drop my phone in a puddle as long as I have my chapstick. We're Gucci.
I love that.
But I don't know. Losing a
I
key in a
lose my
park.
keys a lot. I'm not going to lie.
And that's
Not
okay.
getting to the wedding, though. It's always when I leave the wedding because I like to prank myself, apparently. And I will put my keys in random places of my like bag. They're always in my photo bag. And then I have to take everything out of my bag. I'm like, how did it get to this corner? It's great. I love that about
Surprise.
myself. Yeah, it'll be 10:30 at night. I'm just ready to go home. I've already said bye to the bride and groom, and now I'm just struggling. And I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing.
So I have found that, so I wear a fanny pack because I'm like really stylish. And so I wear a fanny pack and I always put it in the same pocket because
That's smart.
I do that all the time is I prank myself and I lose my keys.
I feel like your
So-
house would be really clean. You seem put together.
My house?
Yeah.
I have a toddler. Definitely not.
Okay. Fair enough. I bet it was. I bet it was.
It was spotless
Yeah.
pre-baby.
I can
It
see that
was-
from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything's got its spot. Now, if my husband watches this and hears that, he will laugh hysterically. He thinks I'm like the messiest person because his OCD is on like a whole new level. But yes, but I historically was a very put together
I
person.
believe you. I would be put together if I didn't have so much dog hair all over my house. Love you, Elvis. All right, story number 5. I was shooting a rural barn wedding in the middle of Nowheresville. Hot, humid, and overall sweaty day. I was wearing my usual outfit of black pants and a black button-down. We had just finished bride and groom portraits, and I decided to help move a cooler filled with ice and drinks to wherever they needed it moved. As I was walking, I stepped in one of those divots that gets mowed the same height as the surrounding grass. The divot was like a foot-deep hole that I was unlucky enough to stumble into.
No.
As I caught myself with my foot, I took an extra wide stance so as to not fall over. This caused my pants and boxers to rip from belt loop in the back to just beyond the gooch area.
My man, I know your pain.
I had to have my second take over the bridal party work while I drove to the nearest store, which was a Walmart 20 minutes away, to get another pair of black pants and boxers. Nowadays, this is a funny story and a reason I bring a second set of clothing along with my backup bag to weddings. Back then, it was a horrifying event to have my derriere, how do you say that? Derriere.
Yeah, you got
I
it.
think I did a good job.
Yeah, you did it.
My derriere hanging out at a wedding.
So
Do we have a story time?
we have a story time.
Ooh.
It's not a wedding story time.
I'll take it.
It's a when I used to work in the medical field story time. And that was I also ripped my pants. When I first birthed my wedding photo Instagram, I did like a get ready with me. Like I was packing for a wedding and I told a story time of when my pants ripped in front of the trauma surgeon.
No.
Yes, it was so
How bad?
It
Where
was- oh, yeah.
on the pants? That's important.
Whole crotch.
Oh my
The
God.
whole crotch.
That's the worst thing that could possibly happen.
Oh yeah, it's the worst thing, absolutely. And so I'll tell the story, but all of that goes without saying. Always bring an extra pair of clothes
I need to take that advice.
to a wedding.
Especially because I
absolutely.
shop at like Fashion Nova and like not high quality.
Honestly, that's some sketchy waters right there.
Yeah. Like-
You were tempting fate.
Black pants from Fashion Nova. Like
So I worked in a trauma center emergency room, and we would get what are called trauma alerts, and essentially like if somebody has like something bad happen to them, car accident, a really bad fall, literally anything trauma related, gunshot, stab wound, blah blah blah.
oh, wow.
They would come in, and of course the ambulance would kind of give us like a little bit of like an essay, like, hey, this is what's going on, this is blah blah blah. So they would come in, I would have to go get blood, like physical like cases of blood.
Ew.
And
Sorry.
yeah.
You're saving lives, my bad.
But like coolers of blood and bring it in. So like after, like this guy was good, he wasn't like too bad off, so he didn't need the blood. So I was like picking up the blood in the coolers to bring it back to the blood bank. And as I bent over,
No.
and I was like frozen. And as that happened, the trauma surgeon had like walked around the corner and he was like, I heard that. And I was like, frozen. I was frozen. So I didn't want to assess the damage, like look right in front of
gosh.
everybody. So I was like, and I just like I like ran out of the trauma bay. And so, yeah, from front to back, whole
Oh my
whole
gosh.
rip.
Just panties out.
Panties out. And
At
hopefully,
least
I
the
don't
panties
remember.
didn't rip.
Well, so thank God for that. I don't remember if this day in particular we had like a good panty day going on. I don't know what the situation was, but like praying nobody saw it because
At least you weren't going commando.
oh my God.
Just give the girl some air.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
Yeah,
Terrifying.
That's honestly my fear. I'm just going to put a pair of my pants in the car, just like stuff them under the seat
You
so that I
should.
don't have to think about it again.
1000%. And make sure they're comfortable. Because at that point, if you have ripped your pants, if you have spilled something on them to the degree that you're like, I got to change my pants, you want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Because at that point, like something drastic has happened. Like you want to change.
You're sad now. You need to be in comfy clothes.
Exactly. You want to be comfy.
A little embarrassed. All right. Our last story for this episode. This isn't a nightmare, but I almost missed the toast at a wedding 3 weeks ago. I told the coordinator over email that I would be pumping in my car during dinner as I am breastfeeding. I told her this again when I arrived. I told her a third time as I was heading to the car along with I have my phone, you have my number, please text me if anything changes with the schedule and I will be right there.
Effective communication.
We love that.
We love that.
I finish in my car and I'm walking to get my stuff when I hear them announce toast 45 minutes ahead of schedule. I scrambled and made it within a minute of them starting, but what the heck? I was also supposed to take night portraits with the couple, and again, without anyone informing me, they announced the last dance over an hour earlier than scheduled. Kind of a bummer because I love night portraits.
Why? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? If I've told you multiple times, this is what I'm doing, please let me know. That's a bad coordinator / planner / whatever. And I would actually love to know if no offense to anybody, if this is a day of coordinator situation or if this is a reputable planner situation. Because again, no offense, but I have had my fair share of not great experiences with day of coordinators who are only hired because the venue requires it.
Mm-hmm.
So what benefit would the couple have to doing things early without their photographer? I'm confused.
Well, I think it's also the DJ's fault.
I could see that being the DJ's fault. I like historically have seen like the coordinator say like, okay, we're going to do this before the DJ does it.
Yeah.
And maybe in this situation, it could definitely be the DJ's fault, but like, just like from my own experience, maybe. And of course, like,
I mean, I definitely blame her too.
Yeah. Yeah. But like definitely the DJ for sure.
But they both, because when I get to a wedding day and the DJ shows up, I'm always like, hey, I'm McKenna, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And they're always like, okay, well, let me know if you need anything and I'll make sure I have eyes on you before I start any of the important events.
Literally.
That's
absolutely.
Etiquette.
And not to mention
common sense again.
right. And in addition to that, why isn't the DJ even like it? So in this instance, say if it was the DJ, why aren't they clearing it with the coordinator as well? / planner, whoever is.
Exactly.
Now, if you're just like going like ahead of everybody, you're not consulting anybody.
Yeah.
We got problems. Like you're just a DJ doing your own thing.
Yeah.
You know, especially pumping mom, former pumping mom, really like feeling so terrible for this mom who is probably a new mom because they're pumping. And if not a new mom, then, you know, you still have a little one and nobody's giving you the courtesy to do what you need to do to like literally nourish life.
That's so stressful.
Yeah, it is very stressful. So
I feel bad for her.
Yeah, me too. That's
the chaos that created.
Yes.
For nothing.
Right, exactly.
Have you had that happen to you before?
So I actually stopped pumping when I started doing weddings. Like,
I just meant the DJ announcing, I love you so much.
That's
the
DJ.
Though.
I have had like bad DJ experiences, but like I think we all have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like nothing like intentional to be rude.
Yeah.
Nothing intentional to be like, this is my show. Nothing like that. But more so just like probably like not following the timeline, not reading the timeline, not being like educated on the flow of the day. Like, for instance, there was one where this bride was she did her first dance with her husband, and then he was like, okay, now we're gonna blah blah blah, and she was like, we're dancing, buddy, like talking to her dad, and she was like, no, and I was like,
wow.
okay, yeah, I was like, heck yeah, girlfriend, like stand up for yourself. She's like, no, I'm dancing with my dad right now, and
she
I was
said,
like,
this is my day.
exactly, like more power to you. Do that,
good
brides.
for her.
Yes, couples do that. So absolutely.
All right, well, we're gonna end on this note for part 1.
Okay.
Stay tuned for part 2 next Tuesday. That'll be coming out. But for everyone listening right now, how can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at In Bloom Photography NC like North Carolina, inbloomphotography.nc.com, or at In Bloom Photography NC on Instagram, Pinterest, all the things.
Love that. And then for me, you can follow my personal work at 1828 Collective, more about the podcast and photo education on at 1828 Photo Education. I have so many Instagram accounts right now. It's not even funny, but
I'm here for it.
We're doing it. We're creating content. We're out in the world.
We're here for it.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.